Let's paint a picture. Imagine living downwind from a massive livestock facility. Thousands of cows or pigs packed into confined spaces, their waste funneled into lagoons the size of football fields. On a hot day, the stench can be overwhelming. But it's not just about a bad smell. What you're breathing in may include ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and other hazardous gases, linked to asthma, headaches, and even neurological damage. Now imagine that the operators of this facility, because of a federal exemption, don't have to report these emissions. Not to you. Not to anyone. That's exactly what happened in 2018, when the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, under the Trump administration, granted factory farms a pass from reporting emissions. This article dives into how that decision came to be, what it means for the environment and public health, and why it still matters today. A policy shift with major consequences. In 1986, Congress passed two key environmental laws, the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, EPCRA, and Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, CERCLA. These laws were meant to ensure industries report dangerous emissions to state and local authorities. Factory farms, also known as concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, technically fell under those rules. But enforcement was lax, and the industry pushed back, saying farms shouldn't be treated like chemical plants. Enter the Trump administration. In 2018, the EPA finalized a rule that officially exempted most CAFOs from reporting emissions under both EPCRA and CERCLA. The rationale? That reporting was unnecessary and burdensome. The decision, however, left environmental advocates and communities near these farms fuming, literally and figuratively. What emissions are we talking about? The main culprits here are ammonia, released when animal waste breaks down. It irritates the eyes, nose, and throat and can cause serious respiratory issues. Hydrogen sulfide, produced from the anaerobic breakdown of manure. It's known for its rotten egg smell and can be harmful, even deadly, in high concentrations. Methane and nitrous oxide, potent greenhouse gases, though not classified as hazardous under EPCRA. These emissions can travel for miles, linger in the air, and accumulate in dangerous levels. And when you're surrounded by multiple factory farms, the cumulative effect becomes a silent threat to public health. Environmental and public health impacts. Let's be real, communities near factory farms, especially low-income, rural, and predominantly communities of color, face disproportionate impacts. Studies have linked proximity to CAFOs with increased rates of asthma, bronchitis, and other respiratory conditions, higher stress and depression levels due to odor and quality of life issues, contaminated water sources from waste runoff, decreased property values, and a sense of powerlessness without mandated emission reporting. These communities often have no official data to back up their claims, or to press for change. They're forced to live with the consequences, while the sources of pollution remain opaque. Voices from the ground. In North Carolina, residents of Duplin County have been outspoken for years. Surrounded by massive hog operations, some say they can't enjoy their own yards or hang laundry outside because of the smell. Others report chronic health problems. "We're not asking them to shut down," one local resident told a reporter. "We're asking for honesty, transparency, and basic respect." Farmers, too, are caught in a complex web. Some want to reduce emissions but feel the system favors larger operators with deeper pockets. Others are hesitant to speak out for fear of retaliation. These human stories bring the issue down from the policy stratosphere and into the daily lives of real people. The case for exemption. What the EPA and industry said. Supporters of the 2018 exemption argued that emission estimates were vague and not meaningful. Reporting created unnecessary regulatory burden. The laws were never intended for agriculture. According to the EPA, continuous low-level emissions from manure didn't fit the emergency response purpose of laws like EPCRA and CERCLA. Industry groups welcomed the decision, saying it provided clarity and protected farmers from bureaucratic overreach. The National Pork Producers Council called it a common-sense reform. But critics pointed out, when the common sense of industry trumps the basic rights of communities to know what's in their air, something's off. 6. Legal pushback and resistance. Environmental groups didn't sit quietly. Organizations like Earth Justice and the Center for Food Safety sued the EPA, calling the exemption illegal and dangerous. Their core argument? That it prioritized polluters over people, especially vulnerable rural communities. While some court proceedings are ongoing, the broader battle has moved into the court of public opinion. Advocacy campaigns, grassroots movements, and local resistance efforts are forcing the issue back onto the radar. What's the status now? Since the Biden administration took over in 2021, some environmental priorities have shifted. However, as of the most recent updates, the exemption remains largely intact. There have been talks of revisiting the decision, but the process is slow. Policy reversals take time, public input, stakeholder negotiations, and legal reviews. Meanwhile, communities continue to breathe air laced with unreported emissions. So why does it matter? This isn't just about farms and fumes. It's about transparency, justice, and the right to know what's in your environment. When industries are allowed to operate without accountability, public trust erodes. And when regulatory bodies tilt toward economic convenience at the expense of public health, it raises fundamental questions about whose interests are being served. The fight over emission reporting is a microcosm of a larger challenge: how to balance food production, environmental responsibility, and human dignity. Final thoughts. From loophole to lesson, you don't need to be a policy wonk to understand why this matters. It affects the food on your plate, the air in your lungs, and the fairness of our systems. Whether you're a content creator aiming to spark conversation, a resident in a farming community, or someone who simply cares about environmental justice, this story is a powerful example of how small regulatory changes can ripple into big real-world impacts. So what next? Talk about it. Share it. Ask questions. Keep the conversation alive. Because when emissions vanish from reports, that doesn't mean they've vanished from reality.